First, always visit the website that I will include below this YouTube. Before you travel to Jordan, the website will give you detailed requirements for your visit, including travel bans. Their phone number is also included as well. So also check the embassy if need be, if your country is allowed to travel at this time to Jordan during this pandemic. So for U.S. Embassy, I will include the website also to check the travel advisory for U.S. citizens. Today, I will need to share some things to remember when traveling to Jordan, but in the end, the trip was very fulfilling. So come and join the journey with me. Assalamu alaikum. Number one, when you arrive at the airport, they will take a PCR swab test of you, which is the COVID PCR swab test. They require that you pay 40 JD before arriving to the airport, which is the Queen Aliyah International Airport. They ask also for your phone number to give you the result of the PCR swab test they took. I never received my COVID result. Neither by mail, neither by email, nor phone number, nor even through WhatsApp, regular and WhatsApp. Number two, the government in Jordan requires you to quarantine based on what color your country is. The U.S. is considered a red country, therefore you are required to quarantine for 2 weeks. So otherwise, there is a fine and also jail time. They are also required to check you on the 7th day, get a swab test. And on the 14th day, they also require, they check you and also release you from your quarantine. But nobody came. Of course, knowing the medical implications I can incur when I break the rule, I stayed in my Airbnb for 2 weeks. I don't want to be responsible for the spread of COVID-19, just in case I was infected. I knew for sure that I was not because I had a negative COVID test prior to flying to Jordan. Flew an airline observing at least 2 meters away from the next customer because there were not a lot of people flying that day with my filtered mask and double masking, and also I have no signs and symptoms of the virus. Number three, even though I was required to quarantine, I was still allowed to rent a car, which was very surprising to me because when I was in Hawaii, keep in mind, you are not allowed to rent a car. You will be escorted to the hotel that the government chooses so they can monitor you if you're quarantining appropriately. Please check your destination prior to traveling. Anyway, during the pandemic, customer service is horrible in Jordan. Even though I was the only tourist, or maybe a few of the tourists in their country, SIXT rental company gave me a car that was not clean, many visible scratches, and with flat tires. The not so clean with visible scratches are okay, but with flat tires, there was no way I was going to drive from Queen Aliyah International Airport all the way to Petra, which is a 3-hour to 4-hour drive. So I asked them to change it, but surprisingly, they did not change my contract. They said it was going to be fine. I also was asking about a car that has a charging capability for my phone, just in case for emergency. When I asked them, they told me I could buy a cigarette lighter for the car, which was only going to cost 1 JD, which is 1 Jordanian dinar, so I could charge my phone. So it's like, anyway. So when I told them about the flat tire, they changed the car, did not change the contract, as I said before. When I exchanged the car 2 weeks after there was a speeding ticket, under the old contract And so, but anyway, I told him that that wasn't my that wasn't the car, that was not the same car, so I did not end up paying for it. So I originally rented a manual car, and the guy didn't tell me from SIXT. The guy didn't tell me that he was giving me an automatic instead of a manual, and he says there's no manual, and then he gives me originally a car with flat tires on them, and then I get this car and there isn't any charging station. He was rude. Actually, it might be just due to the pandemic and they don't have available cars, but he told me to buy a cigarette lighter so I can charge my phone, which is totally ridiculous. And here's the cigarette lighter. So anyway, going back to the car that I had, it had a problem with the gear it gets stuck from drive to to reverse, and then also reverse parking. So anyway, so I ended up exchanging the car, went to Aqaba, which is south of Jordan, after my 2-week quarantine. Asked them if I could actually exchange the car to a different car since it didn't have a charging capability. And they said that all cars that they have didn't have the charging capability, but I looked around, so I picked the car Opal, and they immediately told me that I couldn't afford that and that it's too expensive for me. So I was totally surprised how rude and frank and disrespectful the person was that I was dealing with at the rental place. I mean, look at the bright side though. They wanted me to save money, but the fact that that's the only car with a charging capability. So this is the rental car I got. It's a nice car, but the chairs are pretty awful. And for an Opal, they said it's a expensive car, but yet look how cheap this chair is. But yet this car has a USB. During the rental, the battery also went dead, so which means that when I called them, they had to bring somebody from Amman to Petra, which is about 3 to 4 hours, and needed that battery change as soon as possible. So they agreed to have the battery change in Wadi Musa, which is close by in Petra, and then they would refund me in the end, which they did. Number 4, any drone is prohibited in Jordan. My mini Mavic, thinking that it was going to be accepted, not thinking that it was too complex, I guess, for them. So the customs took it away from me as soon as I arrived, not knowing that I was supposed to be in quarantine. They kept me almost 2 hours at the customs. Don't know exactly what and why, but just doing the paperwork took 2 hours. So it was exactly actually 1 hour and 55 minutes. So that's 2 hours. So when I attempted to take my mini Mavic drone at the customs, nobody was at the booth. Then I asked somebody to help me. A security took me to this corridor somewhere on the first floor. Then they analyzed the paperwork I had, and that also took like 1 hour and 25 minutes. Then I had to pay 50 Jordanian dinar for storage, which I asked why. They said it was for storage, but I said, well, it was not really my own will to have them store it. They took it away from me. And so anyway, I ended up paying for it. And then when you go to security, they attempted to take it away again from me, which I told them that it came from their customs, paid 50 JD with a receipt. So my advice to you is make sure that you have a copy of the receipt. The person from customs has to escort you to the security until you arrive at the gate, because they were telling me it was forbidden, even though I told them it came from their customs. because, and then I almost missed my flight, which was 9 minutes from the security, and I was rushing them, and then they were looking at the camera, and then they said it was forbidden, and I kept telling them that it came from them. And so anyway, in the end, it was a nightmare. And so anyway, if you have anything at customs and you have to get it back before you leave, you have to make sure you have to be there 4 hours early. Number 5, during this pandemic, everyone is struggling to make ends meet. The Bedouins that I was helping, for instance, source of income is tourism from Petra. Some say they have money, which might be true for some who had saved, which is also goes through for everyone in the world, but they don't get financial assistance from the government at all. They are already suffering from lack of jobs, increasing poverty, increasing stray animals, because there's no other spare money to buy food for them. Abused animals that we saw, including the dog who was chained and that we ended up releasing. We have given him food and water. We knew that he's been chained for a couple days. In the end, everyone tries to live and find ways to keep themselves afloat during the pandemic. Anywhere you go, always be patient. Have an open mind when you travel, since we cannot compare our countries we visit from ours, so it is never perfect. But by sharing this experience with you, you can be prepared and be ready when you travel to Jordan. They are very, generally, they're all very hospitable people, very nice. They will take you in anytime if you have a good heart, and they will always help you anytime when you travel there. I will see you guys. I will see you again next time. Safe travels.